Murder at Midnight was a horror radio play that had a 50-episode run in 1946. The show was directed by Anton Leader, who also directed shows on suspense. And as far as TV goes, in the 60s, you probably couldn't turn on your TV without seeing something that he was directing episodes of. Gilligan's Island, Rawhide, Leave It to Beaver, The Twilight Zone, Hawaii Five-0. Seriously, the list goes on. It's pretty daunting if you look at it. There were many writers on this show, but the one who is specifically writing for the episode that I'd like to talk about today is Robert Newman. Robert Newman also wrote several episodes of CBS Radio Mystery Theater. He wrote for Inner Sanctum and Murder at Midnight. Inner Sanctum and Murder at Midnight were both forerunners to the Twilight Zone show as a series. A lot of people who wrote for both of those shows ended up working on the Twilight Zone as well. But the episode that I'd like to talk about today is called The Terror from Space. And it's one of the more interesting radio plays I've actually ever listened to. I've always loved this series. I've listened to it several times before, but I'm very guilty about skipping around to what titles grab my attention. And I feel like I'd missed this one before because it was so interesting that it would have stuck out in my memory. It starts with a Lieutenant John Larkin who is he's assigned to a research base in a desolate coastal part of the Jersey Shore. On the seaside cliffs, he's in a shack. He goes there to work with a Professor Meldon, I think is either way. Professor Meldon, I believe is the name. He goes to work with this professor and finds out that what they're trying to do is establish radio contact with the moon. They eventually do, and as soon as this happens, they receive a return signal and strange things start happening from there. They notice that the professor all of a sudden starts going into these dream-like states. He starts sleepwalking. All of a sudden, the frequency on the control board seems to be adjusted whenever he's in this state. They start to comment on, who was adjusting the frequency. They said it could be nobody but him, but he doesn't remember doing it. The frequency also, the way it was adjusted, is set to more of a carrier frequency rather than transmitting. So it's set so that they should be receiving messages. Suddenly, John Larkin sees the professor fall into one of these dreamlike states at night, and as one of the other scientists goes to shut down the generator that is helping them broadcast and receive these messages, the professor stands up, sleepwalks over to him, hits him in the head with a wrench, and begins to saw off his head with a hacksaw. The episode goes on to where they start talking about the possibility of, is this a mind control thing? Are the aliens these beings that don't live in a physical form? Do they live in an electric form so that they can ride radio waves down to take people over and kill other people? Is this more of a supernatural thing? Are these ghosts of aliens? Like, all of these questions just kind of unravel from an exposition scene between the professor and Lieutenant John Larkin. And as the episode goes on, it ends in a very strange way, where the sender of the initial messages that you're receiving in the story that kind of form the narrative, they're not who you expect it to be from. So definitely check that out. Terror from Space, Murder at Midnight. Thanks. Hope you enjoy it.